First of all, if you don't follow me on Instagram, Sam Ramsell5, I'm like 10 followers away from 3,000. So like help a sister out if you could. Thank you so much. Joan's gonna regret giving me free reign of this call in about 30 seconds. So I just wanted to talk because, yeah, like Joan said, like I was a complete hater of being a coach, like unfollowed her 17 times and came right back like a week later. I was like, what is this chick doing? So I started probably like really working my social media and really working this business. It was probably like back in July, like late July. So just so you guys know, in July of last year, I was just looking, yes, queen, follow a sister, get that count up. So I had about 340 followers in July of last year. Now I almost have 3,000, almost there. But I think one of the biggest things that I've done that's kind of set me apart and gotten me to grow to this point has been using my Insta stories. Insta stories is like, it's a phenomenon, I think, because if anyone used Snapchat back in the day, like Snapchat's kind of dead. I feel like now I don't really even use it anymore, but it's kind of taken over and they do it in a very smart way. So I would say even most of my friends now, or most of my followers, like literally people only go on Insta stories now. Like it's rare that some people even look at posts as much. So some of the things, I hope that when people watch my stories, I always kind of think of like two bucketed ideas. Like either one, I hope that it's entertaining or it's going to make you laugh or, it's going to brighten your day by watching my story, or two, it's going to add some sort of value. And that value can be in the shape of motivating you to work out, or value in the shape of hopefully, like maybe a good meal idea or a new shake idea, or motivate you to want to be healthier. But I kind of bucket into those two ideas. Like, am I trying to entertain people right now, or am I trying to add value in some sort of way? And I know everyone's like kind of heard of that color wheel that we talk about time and time again, but like, what are like your like 5 to 6 when people think of me, like, or when they look at my Insta stories, that's what they see, which is number one, like I love to make people laugh. I love to entertain. Obviously I love fitness. I've been on a health journey. I lost almost 50 pounds doing 80-day obsession last year. I have a fuck ton of animals. I love to sing and play guitar. And I always talk about like how I hate my day job and how I want to retire every second. So some of the big things, obviously, like one of like the heroes I feel like we've watched, and if you haven't watched, that's in the training, is Jatana's training on Insta stories. And I've taken a lot of her tidbits. So if you haven't watched that too, that's definitely a really good, it's on YouTube, it's on the training somewhere. But one of the things is using your face, because your face is your brand, and what brings loyalty is my face. And I feel like the biggest, which is like sounds very conceited, my face, everyone wants to see my face, but I feel like when I am actually talking to the camera and being enthusiastic, I get such a bigger response. And instead of, I feel like when I didn't have as many followers, like my Insta stories would be like 2 or 3 stories a day, and it was like of another object, like of my cat or of my Shakeology or a picture of the sunset. And like, that's not building any brand. That's not building any loyalty to me. People are like, a lot of times it just, especially like you can definitely post that, but you've got to post more behind that and build a loyalty with it. And that was one of the things too with Jatana's story. And if you are, once you get in the habit and you can kind of break that mold, like I feel like in the beginning I felt kind of awkward talking to the camera and like actually getting in there and recording myself and posting that for everybody. But now that I do, it's such second nature that I don't even really think about it. So if you're getting new to that, just people want to see your face. They want to see your face. And that also, the more I post in a day, the more viewers I get. So if I'm posting, like, I know we say like 4 to 5, but like I at least try and have at least 7 to 8 stories every day. The more I post, some of the days that I have, like kind of the sweet spot too is like 12 to 15. My viewer count will go from like minimum 5. Yeah. So like my viewer count, and again, like in July, I maybe had 30 people watching my stories. Now I have the days that I post like 10 to 12, I have 450 people viewing my stories. So the more I post the Instagram stories, the more people are watching. And there's new algorithms, and Instagram's always changing their algorithms too. So it's always good to like kind of be up on the now. But one of the bigger things is posting consistently throughout the day. Like you're not just going to post just in the morning, like 5 stories back to back to back in the morning. You have to post consistently during the day because that's when Instagram will put your stories ahead of everybody else's. You'll notice that like all the stories, like when you first log in at the top, those are people who have most recently just posted something. So that's why like I try and post like a couple times in the morning, a couple times during my lunch break, like in the car telling like no more day till retirement. And then, then my shake when I get home, and then me just like being a dingbat at night doing something weird. So like I try and post consistently during the day. So constantly my story is getting pushed to the top. So one other thing too that I've noticed that a lot of people will do is like also talking to your phone, like making stories of your face, like 8 stories back to back, which I know Jatan always talks about that and other people talk about it. If you're going to talk to the face, you talk to your people and record yourself back to back to back, you don't want to have like more than 3 to 4 stories, like 5 max in a row, because you're going to lose people. Like after the 3rd story, they're just going to like, and that's, I've noticed too, like people are such little skippers. So like if you're going to put in the effort to like make this like vibrant, like big story, make it concise, make it sweet, try and make it within 3 stories, because by the 3rd one, they're not going to listen to it anyway. So if like you made your point by story 4 or 5, they didn't listen to it. So try, and if you're making a point, try and do it within 3 stories, because you're going to lose people. And that's one thing too, is like, that's why I like to follow other people who do Insta stories really well, because I've gained a lot of those type of tips. Because I think about it, like I would skip people like after like 3 stories. I'm like, I'm bored already, skip. Or flip up. So yeah, what do you like thinking about that, like what do I like to like, what would I watch my own stories, like that's what I think about it, would I watch my stories? Other things, so one thing that I've noticed is obviously hashtags are huge, obviously using them in your posts that you post normally, but in your stories. And I used to never do this before, and now I do this more, and I've seen a huge jump in viewers too by using hashtags in my stories. You can use up to, I think it's 8 hashtags per story. So, but what I've noticed is that if you use the same hashtags that you would use in a post that are like, like you always try to think of unique hashtags in your posts that only have like 30,000 post to it, so you don't want ones like hashtag animals or hashtag dogs in your regular post because you're going to get lost. Well, in your stories, I feel like there aren't as many people that are viewing those, so I feel like in the stories when you're using your hashtags, you want to almost use the simpler ones. So like I will see if I'm doing like on like, for example, like over the weekend I did hashtag weekend, hashtag Saturday, hashtag Catterday. Those got 50 views itself just on those simpler hashtags than it did on like Saturday weekend vibes that had like 30,000 posts to it. So I feel like in the stories itself, the hashtags that you use need to be like almost those more simpler ones. And what I do is, I remember actually Raina showed this tip that I was like, oh, it's so smart. So you're not recreating the wheel. And I know this is hard. Yeah, it's hard to say. But I have all of my hashtags saved in my notes section. So I can just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And I have a whole section just for stories, for story hashtags that I use now that are the simpler ones that are only like in 8 to 10 increments. Because I think it maxes you out. I think it's at 10. I can't remember. I heard 8. I don't know. I can't count. But one of those, an even number. And I would just post those in my stories, and you can hide them. So you can literally make it as the text, shrink it, and put it off the story so no one can see it, but they're still on there. So if someone goes to search that hashtag or hashtag story, that will still pop up. But it doesn't have to be like front and center in your story. So that's been big too. And tagging locations. So I know that we do this too. It's kind of like same kind of rules for posts almost in a way. One other thing that I notice with when I'm using locations, so I will always hashtags at least 8 to 10 hashtags in a story, at least, obviously you can only do one, but hashtag a location in my story. So, and when I noticed when I did like cities, like Stamford, Connecticut, I wouldn't get any views. But if I do like a specific restaurant or a bar, or if I do like gyms, so for all my workouts, I tag a gym. Sorry, poaching you. And my boyfriend works at a gym too. I just try and take all his customers. But So like when I'm working out, and you can shrink it and put it off the page. So it's not like showing me at like, whatever at Planet Fitness, shrink it. And like when I'm using specific locations like that, like popular bars, popular restaurants, rather than just like, I use location Connecticut. That was like, gave me nothing, but I'm being more specific in my stories. That's when I'll get more viewers. Another thing, kind of other things that I've noticed recently too, is engaging as much as possible. So like with the new algorithm with Instagram, obviously Instagram wants to reward you for the more you're using it, the more you start to use it. So, and the more you do it all day. Like if you're using Instagram all day, Instagram loves you, obviously. So when I have free time in the day, this is kind of bad, but like I'll literally put my stories running in the background and have them watching. Like I try to at least once a day, like when I'm getting ready for bed at night, I'll leave my stories on so that they're just rolling, because the more that you're watching stories, the more it's going to pop your stories to the top. So I'll at least try and watch all of my followers' stories in a day. And that's either even in the morning or at night. I'll just like, while I'm cooking, I'll leave my stories on. And, it's kind of nice background music, and, and then again, you're being engaged, you're getting popped to the top. Let me see what else I had. Oh, and when people react to your stories, so now it makes it easier too for people to react, because now they have like all of the, like crying, laughing, and the hearts emojis, and oh, good, I'm so glad. The more when people react to you, react back. And Instagram rewards you for the faster you react. So if I have someone that loves my story, has the heart emojis, I at least am going to write back with a heart or with a, y'all, or like with whatever. So the faster I react to them, and when I'm engaging back, you get rewarded. You get up to the top. So the more you're engaging, and that's just, naturally too, like, people that you want, obviously coaching with you, and you want people to like you and build your loyalty, you obviously want to respond to them anyways. But I'll try and at least like give a heart back or something, or try and react back if they react to my post or my story. Let's see what else. So one other thing with hashtags and like following like certain people, like I'll get some ideas too now from like, funny enough, like some, like you've noticed probably if you've been following me for a while, like I've been posting more like outfit of the day, outfit of the night, more like, hashtag fashion blog has been a really popular hashtag, because that's one that like people naturally like love. Like the highest influencers on Instagram are like makeup bloggers, fashion bloggers that are always posting WIW, what I wear, or outfit of the day, style inspo. Like a lot of people use Instagram like purely for that. So I kind of play to that too. So like I've been trying to do more of that. And I'll get a ton more likes, especially like even just posting normally. I'll actually go to like some top influencers that I follow, influencers that have like, like 75,000, 100,000 followers. I'll look and see what hashtags they use, because I used to like follow coaches and use some of their hashtags. But what I found is it's a lot of Beachbody people. So now instead of following like fitness people, I go to musicians that I like makeup artists that I like, fashion bloggers that I like, and I use their hashtags. And that helps me get a more diverse audience watching my stories, rather than like I remember Joan, when I first started posting about Beachbody, I literally was like, hashtag 88 fashion. And like, it's so weird. Why are all these Beachbody people following me? I don't understand. So I do follow some people like that I'll steal some of their hashtags. What else? And then I've been trying, like one thing that I've been trying to do better at, obviously I'm not perfect by any means, but I think that hopefully these are somewhat helpful. It seems like these are helpful. And I'm always trying to grow too and get better. And I know one thing that I try to work on is being more vulnerable in my stories. Like there was a time when like I would be terrified to not wear makeup on Instagram. And now I'm just like half dead on Instagram, and I just am speaking my mind. Oh, good. But I'm trying to show more vulnerability, because that was one thing. One of my friends, she's like, all I feel like is you just post your apps. I'm like, well, and I need to get better at that too, because I feel like that can really grow and grow loyalty, growing empathetic to you. So I need to talk, that's one thing that I know that I need to talk more about that really has helped too. A lot of people gain a lot more followers. But that's, I mean, I've been talking straight for like 20 minutes. Again, don't ever let me take over a call because I'll go forever. But any questions or like, well, we have a little bit left. Yes. Yeah. So you can literally shrink it with your, like shrink it like this. You like this. Like if you shrink it enough, like with the text, and then you can like flip it off your page. Like even if you just go on right now and like practice it and put a location, you can like take that location and just shrink it and flip it. Shrink it and flip. Shrink and flip. Same thing with hashtags. You can just make a little text box, copy and paste, shrink it, flip it. Sorry from hashtag post. I again like, and this probably sounds bad, but you gotta remember, like, no one wants to follow a Beachbody coach. I hate to say that, but like, no one's like, ooh, I want to be sold by a Beachbody coach today, you know? So like, you gotta think like kind of outside the box. Like, what are things that you love to do and things that you like that make you unique and make you authentic and make you vulnerable, that other Beachbody coaches aren't posting about, you know? Like, and that's what took me a little bit to get used to too. I'm like, what is my brand? Like, what do I bring? And like, half the stuff is like things that I think that no one cares about that I'm doing that I get the biggest response from. Like, it's so funny. Like, I always joke, like, I went to Sam's Club for the first time and I'm like walking through the aisle, like, and like people thought that was hysterical. Like, I got like a bunch of responses from that. So the stuff that like, you know, it's like hashtag like shit no one cares about is like the stuff that, funny enough, builds my brand. And like, when you think about it, like people that you look up to, people you think that are funny, like you love seeing like what they're doing on a Tuesday afternoon. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this girl up to? So even if it's weird or like, you're like, are people going to care about this? Odds are they probably are. As long as it's like you, like if you're showing your face and like, especially like when I'm walking around, like I try and always be moving in my post too, so that people never like know what I'm going to do next. So like, you know, even if I'm talking, I'm like kind of walking around the house or I'm like opening, you know, I'm like digging around. I'm not just like sitting there like, I went to work today and I hated myself. It's like, I'm always like kind of, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Oh my God. Yes. The butler. He's great. He's great. You can also use the color changing. Yes. Yeah, that too. Yeah. So like if you have like a black background, make the text black. But most of the time I just will flip it right off the screen. And it's funny, like once in a while you can always catch someone who like has like a, you know, like one time you like catch another follower you see who's like has the hashtags right at the end. You're like, ah, gotcha. Is there another question that I missed? No. Anything else? Any other questions? I know one thing that someone had asked too is if I use like any apps. The only thing that I use is Pro Followers. I will say, like, one other question someone asked is like, if I follow back everybody. I'll give people a chance. Like most people give a chance if they have a high following and a lower amount that they're following, weirdly enough. Like that's something that I kind of look at, funny enough. And maybe that's just me, but like if someone's like has like 3,000 followers, but they're only following like 400, I'm like, oh, what you got? But how do you reach out to your creepers? How do I reach out to them? I block them hard. No. Bye. Sometimes I like to fuck with them though too for a little bit. I'm like, oh, tell me more.
I think by creepers, she means like those that are like watching your story silently, but not like.
Oh, you don't mean the Indian men who can't speak English? Oh, those creepers. So like that's why I think it's funny to do like more authentic posts because like, you know, I see people that watch and I'm like, dude, like, did you see that story about like me, like my butler today? Isn't he great? Like, you know, like I'll use that to like build in an intro to be like, what are you know, like, what are you working on any, like, can I start a conversation? I'm like, hey, I saw that you saw like my workouts too. Are you working on any sort of goal this year? That's been like my bigger one just because we're closer to the start of the year. I'm like, what health or goals are you working on? I saw you're checking out, watching my stories. but I'll get people that like laugh, you know, like, that's like the best one is like people that like do the laughing emoji, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm like out of control, and they're like, I love it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, so where, you know, what are you working on this year? That makes sense. It always is kind of different. I try and like mix it up, but I do like to, I think that's obviously where I've probably found the biggest amount of my challengers and my success club points come from people who watch my stories. And I also, if you haven't, I know this is kind of stupid and not a lot of people do this, but I have linked it to Facebook. And funny enough, I have some old school Facebook story lovers that like I have like at least a consistent like 70 to 80 people a day that watch my Facebook stories that like I kind of forgot about that it automatically links to my Facebook. And like I've gone on and found a couple people from there who I'm like, oh, I forget that it links to Facebook. And I'll go back and see like some people who consistently watch those too and have found some success there too. If it's not automatically linking, like might as well. Why not? How'd I do? Was that the creeper question? Did I answer that creeper question right? I know.
You did. I was trying to unmute myself, and then I like moved you completely off the screen. You did great. Now you're frozen. Is she just frozen, or am I frozen too? Just Sam's frozen? That's too funny. Sam, where did you go? Oh, man. Well, guys, I can't ask her a question if she's frozen. Oh, she dropped off. Now I've got Katie as my spotlight one.
Sorry, bye.
There you are. Hi. What happened?
No, my internet just died.
Is it windy there?
Yes, the internet's been off and on. I should have just put it on my whatever thingy, my whatever hotspot from the get-go. But you know what? Such is life. Sorry, did I miss something? Was there a question?
You didn't miss anything. I was just coming on to say you did a great job.
Oh.
But you were frozen like this. Exactly like that.
Didn't have it any other way. Oh, thanks, girl.
I will just make this last comment before we jump off here, and that is that so you guys watch Sam's stories and you see her on a daily basis, and then you see her come on a team call and Sam is Sam is Sam is Sam. So I think that that's really important too, is that you're not trying to create this like weird ass persona over on your Instagram stories. It's not actually you, so that people, when they sign up with you, you're attracting the right people for you and your brand, and they're not getting something that they didn't sign up for. Because I know there's people who feel like that in this business with certain people. So you want to make sure that you're sharing you so that you attract your tribe and the people who are going to actually work really well with you. I think that's all I have in terms of feedback, because I think you're awesome. It was great. I don't have anything to tell you other than that. And if there's no other questions.
Thanks for letting me jump on.
Yeah. Then nice job, kid.
Don't forget to follow me.
Here, should we take like a group shot, a little group photo? And then you guys can put it on your stories. There you go. All right, ready? I'm going to screenshot it on my computer. Everybody do something smiley. And I have to do a second page because we've got a second page. Hold on. All right, ready? Everyone smile. All right, I got you. Have a good night, guys.
Yay.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
I'll put the recording up.
Awesome.
Goodbye.